don't have an answer, your boss is going to be waiting for you tomorrow morning and say, see, he has a copy of this. Every boss has a copy of these questions. And so your boss is going to ask you, what were your answers to these questions? So be ready to answer. And he wants the answers in writing, by the way. He wants them written down. So that's how to think. Imagine that your boss is going to ask you the answers to these questions tomorrow. And he's then going to decide if you are ready for higher promotion and higher pay. Let's move to part 2. Part 2 is called 7 Essential Thinking Tools. Remember, the most important work we do is thinking. So here are tools that leaders use to think with. And there are 7 key thinking tools for leaders to achieve full power and maximum achievement. And these are all learnable skills. Number 1, our old friend, is clarity. Clarity, clarity. In 1928, a salesman named Thomas J. Watson started a little company, and it was called ABC Punch Cards. And he decided he had a vision to create a worldwide company, and so he called it International Business Machines. It was just a little company that produced punch cards to keep inventory control. And so he called it International Business Machines. And in the next 50 years, it became the biggest and most admired company of its kind in the world, IBM. And Thomas J. Watson had a simple idea, which is that the key to success in business is to think better than your competition. So he had signs with the word think, T-H-I-N-K, printed, and they went into every wall of every office of IBM. And whenever people at IBM were discussing something, should we do this or should we do that, they would point to the sign, think, think, think. And the way that you think with greater clarity, of course, is you get more information and you ask more questions. And if you ask more questions, you get more information. And the act of gathering information often makes the decision easier and easier with greater clarity. So we say you need clarity with regard to your values, your vision, your mission, your purpose, and your goals. And we can spend half a day on each of those 5, but most important, you need clarity with regard to your goals. What are your goals? What are your personal goals? What are your business goals? Now, here are some of the best questions that you can ask. A, what are you trying to do? Whenever you are talking about your business, talking about a business goal, say, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve here? And especially if you are frustrated or you're unhappy or you're not getting results, say, wait a minute, time out, time out. What are we trying to do here? And very often people lose sight of what they're trying to do, and they become so busy working, they say, stop. We're arguing with a customer. I remember a man named, it's a good friend of mine too, and I can't think of his name. His name is Stu Leonard. Stu Leonard was a young man, 21, 22 years old, and he got a job in a little store that sold milk and milk products for a dairy. And one day a woman came in and she ordered some buttermilk. And she took it home and she came back the next day and she said, this buttermilk is bad. It tastes awful. So he took it and he smelled it and tasted it. He said, no, this is what buttermilk tastes like. Buttermilk tastes like sour milk. I don't like it. Most people don't like it. It's a special taste. But she thought it would be milk with a buttery flavor. She had never bought it before. And so she said, well, that's not what I expected. I want my money back. And he said, no. He said, that's buttermilk. And you bought the buttermilk and you don't get your money back. She said, I do not like it. I want my money back. No, you don't get your money back. And she said, all right. She said, I'll leave, but I'll never come here again, and I will tell everybody I know to never come here again. And she walked out. And he's 21 years old. He's thinking, well, I told her. Yes, sir, I got my way. And he spoke to the other clerk that's working there. He said, what do you think of that? And he said, well, you may be right, but you've lost a customer for life. And the whole purpose of our business is to take care of our customers so they buy from us again and again. He's told me, he said, it hit him like a door being slammed in his face. Oh my, I forgot what I was trying to do. The whole purpose of the business is to build up happy customers. He said, that will never happen again. For the rest of my life, I will take such good care of customers, they come back over and over again. Well, with that philosophy, he began to add new products to milk and cheese and butter and eggs and so on, and he began to expand the business. He gave wonderful customer service. 10 years later, he had a company called Stu Leonard's Milk Store, and it was the biggest single supermarket for 100 miles. He sold only 700 items. Most supermarkets have 30,000 items. He sold 700 items, the most popular items that families buy, and he sold more of them in that store than some of the biggest companies in the country. He bought cracked crab. He bought by the truckload. He bought eggs by the rail car load. He bought milk by huge quantities. He established a reputation. People came from all over the world to visit that store and look at his innovations in customer service. He built the finest and most successful business selling food to customers. People came from 50 miles, 75 kilometers around to shop there. He had dancing bears and clowns in the aisles, and they played with the children, and they had music playing and special sales. People went there. It was like a festival. It was like a carnival. And they bought and bought and bought. Made him one of the richest men in America. He said the turning point in his life is when I asked the question, what am I trying to do? I had lost sight of what I was trying to do. Question number B is, how are you trying to do it? How are you trying to do it? And always you ask this question if you're not happy with your results. If you're not happy with your sales and profitability and growth, if you're not happy with something in your company or in your life, say, how am I trying to do it? And then C is, could there be a better way? Now here is the truth. No matter what you're doing today, there's always a better way. And the mark of senior executives, of top leaders, is they always believe there's a better way. They're always looking for a better way to do it. Now D, and this is one of the most important things you'll ever learn in your life. I've taught this to some of the biggest companies in the world, and they say that this is now used at every level of their business. It's a concept that I developed called zero-based thinking. So we say practice zero-based thinking in everything. Now, what is zero-based thinking? Well, what you do is you draw a line under everything you've ever done in the past and ask yourself, knowing what I now know, would I do this again in the future? If I was not now doing this, would I start again? If I was not now selling this product or service, would I start selling it again today? I call this a quink analysis. K-W-I-N-K in English stands for knowing what I now know. Would I do this again? Would I get into this relationship with this person? Would I hire this person? Would I open a store here or there? Starbucks, which is the biggest and most successful retail coffee store in the world, it has 6,000 stores. When the president retired and stepped down as a very rich man, the new people started to open more and more stores. When he came, then the company almost went bankrupt. So he stepped back in, and the first thing he did is he applied a quink analysis to every store in the world. Knowing what I now know, would I open this store again in this location with this competition? And he closed 1,000 stores that did not pass the test. Whenever a retail company gets in trouble, they do a quink analysis on every store. They do a quink analysis on every product that they offer. They do a quink analysis on every part of the business, and they say, knowing what I now know, would I start this up again today? So this is what you need to do in your life. Now, how can you tell that you need to perform a zero-based thinking analysis in some part of your life? The answer is stress. Whenever you experience stress or anger or frustration in any part of your life, you say, knowing what I now know, would I get into this situation again if I had to do it over today? Now, there's 3 key areas where you practice this. The first, number 1, has to do with people. Is there any relationship in your life, personal or business, that you would not get into again today if you had to do it over. Many companies now are firing their customers every year. Every year they look at their customers and they decide to fire the bottom 10 or 20% of their customers because these customers are too much trouble. They don't buy very much, they don't pay very well, they complain, they are rude, they're difficult. So the way that they get rid of these bad customers is they raise the prices for these customers. Or they just simply tell them that we cannot make you happy, so we would encourage you to go and shop from our competitors and make them unhappy. But they fire their customers, so now they have more time and resources to devote to their best customers. I have a friend who is a young insurance salesman, and very interesting man. Today he's very rich, but he had little or nothing, came from a small family, and he began selling, and then he opened his own office. And he was reasonably successful, and one day he did a quick analysis, and he used the 80-20 rule. He found that 80% of his profits were coming from 20% of his insurance customers. So he decided that he would get rid of the bottom 80%, because it took just as much time to take care of little customers in the bottom 80% as to take care of big customers in the top 80%. But by spending all this time with little customers, he was not able to give enough time to big customers who could grow. So what he did is he found other insurance agents who were just starting who would very much appreciate little customers because they didn't have any customers, and he very professionally and courteously introduced them. And he said, I think this man can take care of you better than I can, and he can give you better service, and so I'm going to ask you to do business with him. And so it was very professional, very friendly, and then he could concentrate on the top 20%. Now, who do people in the top 20% also know? Who do they know? Other people in the top 20%. So he began to expand his business with top 20% people. Today he's a multimillionaire. He's very successful, he has a big business, but his turning point in his career came from removing the bottom 80% of his customers. So what you should do is you should start thinking is, what are the customers that I have that, knowing what I now know, I would not take on again? The other area that you ask this is with your staff. Is there anybody who is working for you that you would not hire again today if they came today and applied for their current job? If they applied for their job today, you would not hire them. If the answer is no, the next question is, how do you fire them and how fast? Because whenever you apply a quick analysis, knowing what I now know, and the answer comes up no, it means it's too late. You cannot solve the problem. You cannot fix it. You cannot change it. And remember, what do we know about people? People don't what? People don't change. So therefore, if you're not happy with this person today, and they're causing you frustration and unhappiness, that's how they're going to be tomorrow and next week and next year. So therefore, admit that you made a mistake. And I just reading a business article 2 days ago, and it said, and I've seen this for many years, is that if you have hired the wrong person, it is you who is at fault, not the person. You made the mistake. That person didn't make a mistake. That person was very smart. They got a job. They did the right thing for themselves. It's you who are the bad boss. And so here's what we learned. The longer you keep a bad person in a job, the more incompetent you are. In fact, many people lose their jobs. Many top executives lose their jobs because they hire poor people and will not get rid of them. And so the person above them says, this person cannot be trusted with hiring people because they hire the wrong people. So the person you are keeping in the job is actually sabotaging your career. It's setting you up for failure. So what you do is you just realize, I've made a mistake, and you go to the person and say, I don't think this is the right job for you. I think you should look at doing something else. Don't become angry at them. You should be angry at yourself. You're the one who hired them. You're the dumb one. Well, maybe not dumb, but at least knowing what you now know, you made a mistake. So admit that you made a mistake and let them go somewhere else. The cruelest thing that you can do is keep a person in a job where they have no future. And if you have decided in your heart that you would not hire this person again, you've also decided in your heart that this person has no future in this company. You're never going to promote them. You're never going to pay them more or give them more responsibility. You're sorry that you even hired them in the first place. And if they have no future, the kindest thing that you can do is to let them go. Like a bird, let them go free and find a place where they're better suited. And just because a person is not competent in your company does not mean that they're a bad person. It just means that there's a mismatch, is that you hired them for a job and it's not the right job for them. So it takes a lot of courage to practice zero-based thinking. It takes a lot of courage, but it is a matter of honesty and integrity, is to tell the truth. Be honest with yourself that you made a mistake and be honest with the other person. Now, second is business activities. Is there any product that you would not start selling again today? Is there any service that you would not offer? Is there any way of investing, advertising, sales, promotion, pricing, any part of your business that knowing what you now know was not a good idea? And the answer is, how soon do you stop? How fast can you stop it? So stop it immediately and start doing something else. And the third area has to do with investments. Now, human beings hate to lose anything. And the three major investments are time and money and emotion. We hate to invest time and fail. And so what we want to do is we try to cover up our bad investment by spending even more time. So ask yourself, is there any part of your life or career where you've invested a lot of time and you realize you're not going to be successful? I had a friend who wanted to be a top musician, and he practiced from the time he was young up until he was 19 or 20, and he took lessons from the best teachers, and finally, one of his teachers told him, he said, you know, you'll be a competent musician, which you can through hard work, but you'll never be a great musician because you just don't have that special skill. Music takes a special skill. And he finally admitted that he did not have the skill to be a great musician, and so he walked away. But instead, he said, he would then manage other musicians. And he became one of the top managers of musicians in the country and made vastly more money than he could have made playing an instrument. He was willing to admit that even though he had spent thousands of hours learning his instrument, he had lost his investment. Most people will keep on spending thousands of hours in a situation like that. The second area has to do with money. If you have made an investment in anything that is causing you frustration or unhappiness because it's not successful, ask yourself, knowing what I now know, would I make this investment again for the first time? If the answer is no, then the next question is, how do you get out and how fast? Because from now on, the only question is, how long are you going to suffer and how much more are you going to pay? Once you've asked the zero-based thinking question and the answer is no, it's too late. So the only thing now is, do you have the courage to chop it off as fast as possible? Very often that will save your life, your economic or your financial life. I went through and I invested about several millions of dollars, and I built $20 million worth of property with huge bank loans, and then the economy collapsed. Remember in 2007, 2008, and what I thought were great investments were suddenly in big trouble. And a good friend of mine came to me, and he knew about my situation. He said, what do you want to do here, knowing what you now know? And I said, I want to get out before these investments drag me down and kill me. He said, good. He said, that's the right answer. He said, I will help you sell them off. And he was very well connected, and in the next 6 months, he sold off all my real estate investments and got me out completely. Now, I lost some money, and I didn't like it at all. I still don't like it. We hate to lose money. Have you noticed that? We hate to lose money. But he said it was either lose the money or be dragged down by the investments. The person who bought all these investments, a major corporation, went bankrupt 2 years later because they stayed in when it was too late. But I didn't go bankrupt. I suffered, but I didn't go bankrupt. I sold my suffering to this other company, and they thought they were getting a good deal because we had to lower the prices. But it wasn't a good enough deal for them. Anyway, the third area has to do with emotion. When you've invested a lot of emotion, especially in a person or a career, if you realize that you've made a mistake, be prepared to walk away. Because it's never going to get any better than it is now. Because people don't change. People don't change. Many companies, little companies, go bankrupt because they cannot replace a person because he's your friend, He's a family member, he's a relative, but the person is totally incompetent. So they keep the person there until the company goes bankrupt. And then afterwards, that person hates you. The person you tried to save all this time, they turn around and they hate you. Number two, quality. Number two, quality is competence. Competence requires excellent performance of the business task. You hear me say this over and over again. So question A, number one question in business is, what is your competitive advantage? What is it about your product or service that makes it superior to your competitors? What is your advantage? If a customer were to ask you, and they're looking at buying your product or your competitor's product, they would ask you, what makes your product superior to this competitor? And imagine that your competitor is standing there, and the competitor listens to your answer, and your competitor says, yes, in that area, you are superior. So in other words, your competitive advantage cannot be imaginary or fantasy. It has to be something that your competitor would agree with. Yes, we give 24-hour service, and everyone else gives 1 week service. Your competitor would have to say, yes, that's true. We give 1 week service. We do not give 24-hour service. So what is your advantage? And if you don't have one now that is clear to you and every person in your company, what should it be to be successful? The rule is, if you don't have a competitive advantage, develop one and develop it quickly. And it is in developing competitive advantage, which means that you offer something that customers really want and they need and they're willing to pay for. It makes customers happier to buy from you than your competitor. What is your competitive advantage in your business, in your products and services? And if you don't have it, how could you develop it? There's a research organization in the US on quality, and they give a quality award each year to the top companies who have the highest quality products and services. And they have a test. And part of the test for the qualification is they will go around the company and they will ask people, you work here, what's the competitive advantage of this company? What's the competitive advantage of this company? They will ask truck drivers and janitors. They'll ask top executives and secretaries. And 95% of the people they ask must know the answer, or they lose the quality award. Everybody in the company must know. So first question is, what is your competitive advantage? Why is your company or your product or service superior to your competitors? And does everybody know what it is? Please turn to the person next to you and tell them the one thing that your company does that makes it superior to all other companies. Turn to the person next to you. What one thing does your company do that makes it superior? Now, what is the job of the leader? The job of the leader is to choose the area of competitive advantage. The job of the leader is to choose the area where you, the company itself, or your department is going to be excellent at what you do. The leader chooses the area of excellence and then talks it over and discusses it with everybody, and everyone agrees that we are going to be excellent. I worked with a company, a bank, that started with one branch, one bank, and spread to 17 banks, and then sold itself to a bigger bank for $1 billion. And I did lots of speaking and seminar work for them, and I helped them with this concept. And they decided that their competitive advantage was that they would give the fastest and most polite customer service to every person who called the bank. Now you think, well, what about lending ratios and loan to equity and commercial loans and credit cards? No. The key was to become the fastest and friendliest bank in the area. And they started off with surrounded by banks, very competitive banks. And they just made it clear, and this went right down through the company, we will be the fastest and most polite in responding to customers. So every single person in the bank, when they started off, everybody would answer the phone, hello, how are you? Good morning, how's everything going? They standardized it. Every single person who spoke to a customer who called said the same thing. They would say, good morning, it's a wonderful day at Centennial Bank. Thank you for calling. How can I help you? And I was sitting with the president of the bank, and he said, look at this. And he called one branch of the bank in one part of the city, and the person picked up the phone, and they were all taught to smile. They had a little mirror by the phone. They had to smile into the phone whenever they answered the phone. We call this showing your teeth. They had to show their teeth. And they said, good morning, this is Centennial Bank. Thank you for calling. How can I help you? With a big smile. People can hear a smile on the phone, by the way. And so this was always the first contact. That bank grew to, then the bank manager said, Susan, this is the big boss at the head office. That was perfect, thank you. And he called another branch, and they said the same thing. Then he called a third branch, and I'm sitting here listening on the speakerphone, and each one said exactly the same words with a smile, happy, almost like the best friend had just phoned. And that bank grew to 17 branches and $1 billion in capital in a matter of 5 or 6 years. Because everybody remembered that that's the fastest and friendliest bank to deal with. And people assumed that if they're fast and friendly on the phone, then everything else they do is going to be friendly and efficient and superior to their competition. So sometimes it can be something very small, just like that. And I know lots of companies that are in very competitive industries. There's lots of other companies offer the same products and services, so they decide to differentiate, to create a competitive advantage by being the nicest people to deal with. Same product, same service, same prices. Now the second part, we say first is corporate, second is personal. What is your personal competitive advantage? In what area are you superior to other people who do your work, the same work, within your company and between companies? In what area are you excellent? And we talked about this before, and we're going to talk about it again. You see, you may have 20 or 30 skills, but it's the one area where you are excellent that is the point of the spear. It is the key to your success. It's the reason why you are in your position. It's the reason they pay you, the money that they pay you. Not for your average skills, but for the one skill where you are truly excellent. So turn to the person next to you and tell them the one skill where you are the best. Of all your skills, this is your best skill. Turn to the person next to you, and you better have an answer. If you don't have an answer, I'm going to come around and hit you with a stick. What is your answer? Because everybody here is excellent at something. What is it? Turn to the person next to you and tell them. Now, if you do not have a clear answer to this question, the next question is, how can you develop one? In what area should you be excellent if you want to move ahead rapidly in your career? And whatever it is, it's a business skill, and all business skills are what? Learnable. So B says, what are your areas of excellence, both in your business and in yourself personally? And C says, what is your unique selling proposition? What is it about your products or services that make them different and better from any other products or services in the same industry? What is it about what you offer that makes it superior to your competitors? And a unique selling proposition is something that only your company has. No other company can offer it. Sometimes when I ask company owners, and I've trained 10,000 business owners, as well as the top executives of 1,000 of the biggest companies, I'll ask them this question: what makes your company better than your competitors? And so many of them will say, well, quality and service. I say quality and service are the parrot answers. You know, a parrot? Quality and service, quality and service, quality and service. Buy from us because we give quality and service, quality and service. If anybody says that, I know they're an idiot. And that them having executive responsibility is a danger to the company. Because the only time you can say that these are your advantages, your unique selling propositions, is if your competitors offer zero quality and service. If your competitors also offer quality and service, you cannot say that quality and service is your unique differentiator. Because unique means only you offer this particular advantage. There is a very famous company called Domino's Pizza. I don't know if you have Domino's Pizza here in Dar es Salaam, but there's about 8,000 Domino's Pizzas around the world. It was started by one college student with no money who discovered, I won't go into the story, he discovered that when people ordered pizzas, they were hungry already. They were already hungry when they phoned and ordered a pizza for delivery. So he found that speed was more important than quality. So he developed a method to produce pizzas very fast and deliver them within 30 minutes within a 5-mile or say 5-kilometer area. And with that method, everybody started to order pizzas from him because he said if we don't deliver within 30 minutes, the pizza is free. So everybody called them. Now the pizza was not the same as it was high quality and they take lots of time to prepare it and so on, but it was fast. And his insight was when people order a pizza, they're already hungry. And so therefore speed is more important than quality. Built 8,000 pizza restaurants, became one of the richest men in the world. He retired and sold his shares for almost $2 billion. Because of one little competitive advantage, he delivered pizzas faster than his competitor. Now, worldwide, to this day, no other company has tried to compete on that basis. They all, if you phone for a pizza for delivery, it takes an hour, hour and a half.